Hi, I'm Alex. Welcome to our Terra Inaka life. In this video, first is an attempt to describe the borders of our land, which our neighbours don't really know either. Then a look through some of our farmland and forests. A walk along our indoor or forest road that runs along the creek. And how we bought the house, a timeline and an explanation. And thanks to everyone for subscribing. Just to recap, this is our traditional Kominka in the mountains of central Japan. It has a lot of character and the view from this place is insanely beautiful. It came with a lot of land, but most of that land is on the side of a mountain, so it's not really like the farmland you might see in other Kominka videos and other channels. The house is partly set up for accommodation already, but we need to do a lot of things around the property and to do some renovations before we're really ready. Stick around and see what we're up to. Trying to understand the boundaries of our land is difficult. Normally, a real estate agent would walk you around the borders of your land so you know for sure, so you won't accidentally destroy your relationship with your neighbors, but this depends on your neighbors. Ours are pretty relaxed about this kind of stuff. But in our case, it was just from a description using a pretty ancient top-down map, which is also pretty usual, but it's difficult to say the least. On land like ours, having a top-down view doesn't really help much because of the slope, so there was quite a lot of guesswork. And to make things more fun, our neighbors also don't really know where the borders are sometimes, meaning the last time someone really cared about these lines might have been 100 years ago or more. On the south of our house here, you can see these 3 parcels of land. 2 parts are now bamboo forest, but they weren't actually before. Our neighbour's land starts maybe 4 or 5 meters behind that concrete barrier, but even he has only some general idea of where that line is now. His family's house used to actually be on the hill on the right side, but the land is not super stable, so it's a good thing they moved to a different spot. So let's go down the little path next to our road here and have a look at another bit of our farmland, which is kind of on the other side of what you saw before. And there's, next to the road, like a little concrete walkway will go down. So here we are at the bottom of that walkway. And what you can see in front of us, where the cut grass ends might be ours. We're not 100% sure about that one. Down that way goes towards someone's house and down the river. Turning around here, you can see there's still a pretty nice view. We got a little bit of mixed forest down to the river that way. These are a bunch of those kind of religiously important trees. Again, we might want to get rid of some of those. The big concrete wall is pretty good. I think the council put that in a long time ago. Keeps us safe. This is just looking down the forest towards the river through the more Sugi forest part. Coming back along this wall again, and past all these trees, these shikimi trees, towards the rest of our land. Don't want any snakies. As we go along, there's a couple of different types of tree around. Some of them we still don't really know. There's some ume in there, which is pretty good, the ume plum. And this area is not super flat. I wouldn't really call it flat. It's still on the side of a mountain, but it's grass there and it's not really steep. It's still not flat enough to really grow a lot of stuff on though. And from here you can see our neighbor's house and some of the land that I was pointing to before. And just panning across, there's like a triangle of land in the middle there that isn't ours, but we kind of know where that is. And there's actually a rock wall just underneath us now that drops down to this next level. And if you can see a bit of a track here, this is just down the hill a little bit. This is actually a track that's made by animals, not people. And you can kind of see the shape of the track as it continues around the corner and down the little rock wall. There's so many animals around here that have walked there so long that that's the track. This is looking up at our garage from the other side. And if we spin around, you can see it comes down to a parking spot, which is pretty handy. And around here is where we've been getting the bamboo shoots recently. So you can see these little brown things coming up out of the ground. They're the bamboo shoots. This is a little tiny one, but it gives you an idea of what they look like. Some of them are absolutely massive, and they're very soft. There's one there that's basically been pushed over by hand. And yeah, if they're pretty fresh, you can just push them over. These big concrete walls were put in by the council. They're pretty good. Don't know when exactly that happened, but it keeps us safe from any sort of landslide risk, because the land here did have a landslide about 10 years ago. That tank was put there to stop that happening ever again. Basically takes the groundwater out of the mountain with horizontal pipes. It's all quite a nice system. Climbing up the back of this wall here, past some of these pipes, we'll get a look at some bigger bamboo shoots that basically got too big for anyone to try and eat. You can see these black, baby bamboo. They will grow to be pretty huge. They're already pretty huge. This here is an interesting view towards our house because it shows the ancient road through this valley and through a lot of these valleys called the Akamichi. You'll hear me mention these often because I love them. There's a lot of history in these paths and they deserve to be remembered. In this case, this Akamichi used to be the main way to get to other houses and the school for our neighbor. But when they built the road, they basically cut into the mountain and went around it. Let's go take a look at our land by the creek. You can see that's our garage there and the bamboo as we come down. Some of what you can see down here does seem to be our land, which unfortunately means I need to cut the grass at some point, which I'm dreading. We'll see how that goes. But we're looking down towards the road there. You probably can't see it too well, but there is a road there. This is back at the top of the hill and we're going to walk down to that road, and this part of the road is technically like a forestry road. It's not actually a public road, seems, even though it's quite good that the council has at some point put these concrete barriers on the side and the guardrails, and it's looked after a little bit. It's a little bit steep. Coming up here on a bike is a bit painful. And this is basically a road that only us and our neighbors maybe use. It's probably just us, to be honest. I've never really seen anyone else. Maybe delivery drivers take this path down. There's a forestry road that goes up towards the big mountains near us that way. The creek is down here. And if we head down the creek a bit along the road, that's basically towards the town. So the place you can see up behind me there, we can go hiking up there. It's got some funny signs that are so rusted that you just can't tell what it said anymore. But basically, going up that way, we can go up to some of the tallest mountains around here, just behind our house. It's pretty good. And it's really pretty on the way up. We've got this river the whole way that you can see. Almost the whole way, we've got the river going up there. And the funny thing is that these signs that at one time said no entry are a little bit faded. There's a sign over here that is a good sign of kind of how strong the nature is here and how long it's been since someone really cared about who went up here. There are, kind of funnily enough, more readable signs further up this track, but we found out that sort of in Japanese style with the gray area, it says no entry for cars and maybe motorbikes, but people are probably fine, but it does say just no entry. So yeah, we had to ask someone about that, but we found out that it is probably 90% or something, probably okay. So looking back up the road I just walked down, got this big rock wall that was, I don't know, probably built 300, 400 years ago. And this is probably our land. There's some kind of lack of clarity on that, but this part close to the road here is technically ours. And down here at the river, if we take a spin around, you'll see this very important drain that takes away the groundwater for us from where there was a landslide 10 years ago. And it's very important that this exists. Something to note about here is that we've got wasabi. These ones here. It's a natural wasabi growing here because it needs really, really clean water, and we have lots of really, really clean water. The issue with this wasabi, or not issue, the funny thing is that you can't really eat the roots, they're not tasty, but the leaf is tasty and tastes like wasabi. So this is looking up towards our house, behind all those trees. It's pretty steep bush, really. I just call that bush. And looking down this way, there's a mountain bike track across the river. That's not ours, but it is owned by the previous owner of our house. So if we stop here, there's the mountain bike place is there. That's where they handle all that. And this is, again, looking up at our land. It's behind all this bush and it's a bit hard to see through a camera, but it's a whole bunch of bush that goes up there. There is a path up there. It's basically a path that's half made by humans a couple of hundred years ago probably, and half made by wild animals, but it's pretty cool. This here is the real bush entrance up to our house. It's probably a very old road, but the animals keep it as a road at this stage. They're the only ones that really use it. We've walked up it a couple of times. And you can see that's our land there as well. Nice bush, forest, whatever you want to call it. The animals seem to enjoy it a lot. There was a vending machine right there. I don't know what happened to that. Yeah, all of this on the right side, still our land. There's some wasabi growing on the side of the road. So the road that we've been walking on is basically our road. We own that somehow. And if we take a look up, big giant sign, but it's technically on our land. And so this road and this stuff all up to the side, it's all ours. So if we come this way a bit more, and we take a look at the river here, you can probably see quite a huge rock there. That's pretty tall. It's maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8 meters or something. That's technically ours. And our house is basically up the hill there behind all the trees. So our land comes right down to the edge of the creek here, or the river, I should say. And this bridge is pretty high up. All right, to give you some idea on our process of how we actually bought the house and found the house and everything like that, I made a bit of a graphic, and I'll show you this as we go through some of these steps, when they happen, and you'll notice that there's 3 sort of chart lines running behind this one. And the green one is basically our excitement about things over time. The red one is our stress about things over time. And the dark gray or the black line is basically how much burden we felt about owning the place and the situation we were in. So in about 2017, we had this dream of buying a Kominka in the mountains and running an Airbnb someday. And, as we move across, coming into early 2020, it's the start of that fun time. We tried to buy a house, but we couldn't actually get a loan or find a reasonable price for somewhere. Just classic sort of stupid conditions for loans and things. So then around mid-2020, we actually tried to rent somewhere because we were staying at, the parents' place. We tried to rent somewhere, but it was the beginning of a housing crisis that's continuing now, and a rental shortage in the city we were in Australia, which was just insane. It's insane how bad that housing crisis is, and the Australian government just seems to be ignoring it. But yeah, that was a pretty stressful time. Couldn't find anywhere to live, with the same sort of freedoms that lots of other people have. So then in about June 2022, we made a decision, and we felt like the Australian society or the government was kind of saying, go away if you don't want to slave away for nothing or have a huge loan or work in a job that you hate. So we ended up saving enough money to kind of chase our Kominka dream. We couldn't really live comfortably in Australia the way we wanted to without being rich or just dying in some job that we didn't like. So we contacted a not-for-profit organization, the NPO group in Shinjiro City in Japan that we had seen before. Kind of knew they existed a little bit, but we reached out to find out about moving here in, the next couple of years to see what would happen. So we had some early meetings, and everyone basically thought that it would take a couple of years to find somewhere. But then in August 2022, the cafe owner here of this place, because it was a cafe, they wanted to close the cafe because it was really difficult to run this place by herself after the husband passed away. And at the same time, the NPO asked us about our ideal kind of house and if we had any examples in mind that we liked. And we mentioned this house, and we didn't actually know that she wanted to stop the cafe, and the timing is kind of incredible. So after that point, of course, obviously things lined up and we were able to try and buy this house. So in September, we actually started the process to buy the house. And the actual owner of the house and land, he's about 90 years old. And he was involved, but his son, who was in his 60s, was also becoming involved in that, just purely from the age of the actual owner. And moving into October, there were some complicated conditions added to the sale because of our connection to the house and the cafe and how this place was used before. Some slightly messy stuff, and there were discussions between us and the NPO about the price of the house, the condition of the house, the specific circumstances for buying the house. And the NPO and the owner had discussions about the amount of land, settlement, and the land registration. So, for example, like the farm that became forest. If we move across a bit more, basically, after this point, still in October, a bit later, we signed an agreement with the owner to not sell the house to anyone else until February 2023, when we planned to actually arrive in Japan, to actually be there, because we can't buy it without being here. And the house seemed to have other people interested in buying it because it was a cafe and restaurant. We have no way to know if it was really a threat or how many people were interested, but it just that we didn't really have any choice because we had a sentimental connection to this place. We were kind of destined to be the ones to buy it, so we had to make it happen. And yeah, we had very little choice. We had to make it happen, and just because of this possible threat, we had to sign an agreement, and it might have been a bit more expensive than it should have been. In that same month, we signed the documents and sent things to Japan, and we paid the deposit for the house and the land, which was, I think, slightly more than 10%. The exact numbers I won't give just yet, but in Australian dollars, it was maybe about $10,000 for the deposit of a somewhere around $70,000 property, that kind of thing. So then in November, my wife left a job preparing to come to Japan. And if we come across to look at what we did in Japan, things start to get a little bit crazy. So you can see that in the middle of January 2023, my wife was here first. I came later with the cat. So my wife was in Japan, living in her sister's house while preparing this house for living here. And the previous owner, the son, I have to carefully say this in Australian English, but he had a bit of a tanty about paying for the land re-registration, and it basically left us to have to pay to have the land re-registered from, farmland or something else, because their family left it as just forest. And it was too late to have any sort of price negotiation, and for some reason we had to pay it. So that's fun. And the conveyancer started the whole process of actually buying the house from the owner and doing all the little legal bits and pieces, and that's all stupidly complicated. And so at the end of January, there were something like 5 bits of land that were too different from registration. And so even looking at some creative options, we really had no choice but to pay for re-registration. And it's still kind of gray area why we had to buy those bits of land anyway. Some of these are stupid conditions, and a lot of stuff is not really written in law. A lot of stuff is just kind of manner. It's not ideal. But anyway, that happened in January. We didn't really have much control. And as you can see, the gray burden line is slowly going up after a very quick rise. And the stress line is starting to go up quite a bit there too. And as we come across to other things that happened in January, there was a bit of a problem because of the time it would take to process things. So for settlement, so that we can actually live here, it was basically split into 2 purchases. One was for the house plus land that wasn't an issue, and the other part was for the more difficult farmland, which again, I don't think we necessarily needed it, but we had to buy this thing and get involved with this burden for various reasons. And the conveyancer that we had was really good. He basically helped us with managing the issue, looking for alternatives, things that can help us to satisfy options without having to start again and pay even more. He was very good. So if you want a tip, get a good conveyancing lawyer. So in late January as well, that's where I left my job. They were a bit too ancient for remote work, even though they would like to not have that image. And the purchase of the house and a bit of the land, the safe part went through without any issues. And as we go into February, that's where I arrived and moved into the town here. And we actually paid the fees for the MPO because they were the acting estate agent, basically. As we come across a bit more, in February, from lots of things that we discovered about the house and the land and all the things going on, our feeling of burden of what we had just bought into and the things that we couldn't have found out because we weren't here and the amount of things we needed to do to renovate, to fix, basically things that the previous owners didn't do for a number of years that left it, for us to do it, to actually bring the house back to glory, back to really good livable levels, and to make it really comfortable for people staying here. The deeper we dug, the more essentially garbage we found of that previous family. And it was not very nice sometimes when we did work, found disappointing things, and then finished our work for the day kind of defeated after a bunch of cleaning, feeling disappointed and huge amounts of burden. But these things are happening, and around February, the local farming council came and they judged our plans to see if it was feasible, and basically gave us a bit of a character assessment to see if it was fine for us to actually buy the land, and if we didn't have to completely re-register things. Again, it's just this complication of it being farmland. It was used for farming. They stopped using it for farming, but they didn't re-register it, making all this crap. Calling it crap is probably a good term, because my wife she had a good idea of calling it butt wiping. There's a lot of butt wiping that we've been doing of people from a variety of times in history, in various places around the house and the legality connected to things. Lots of butt wiping. So this is kind of where we started tying up the farmland butt wiping. And so in March, we had a situation where one of the conditions of the sale of the house that we agreed to that seemed reasonable turned out to be a loss instead of a gain. And it just triggered a whole bunch of negativity and bad times. And you can see the burden and the stress is pretty much at a peak that time, just because we signed into this thing and didn't have a lot of choice. And just by fate and our sentimental connection to this particular property, it just added a bunch of uncomfortable burdens. So that's fun. We're still trying to get over that. And also in that month, with the farming council actually deciding things were okay, we got all the official stuff, but we had to pay something like $6,000 to change. Even though the original owner had the responsibility, smiley face. But it's Japan, so it's gray area, and it's manner instead of law. Yay! And so in late March 2023, that's when the rest of the land sale went through. Everything was finished. We're finally kind of done. Everything's done with the previous owner. We own everything. So it was a interesting journey that was slightly painful. And you can get some idea there, hopefully, from the way that the excitement line, the green line, is okay. We're much more stressed and feeling like there's lots of burden, but at the same time, we have a lot of opportunity, and we're working through the feelings of wiping a lot of butts.